Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's regular meeting of the Jamaica Selectboard. It is Monday, July 28th at 7 p.m. So first, I will call for any late additions to the agenda. I have one, and
I'm not sure if we recognize Chris.
yeah, I think that we'll add him as a
Right.
item to the agenda.
Yeah. And then the other, what I was going to say is just we can draw straws whether that be trans or Chris goes first as far as just courtesy of having those people wait all through the meeting.
Yeah, could we do Chris real quick?
Sure.
And then,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be two additions to the agenda. First is a report and proposed letter to be signed by myself and the chair of the planning commission regarding an opinion to be expressed with respect to the Act 250 permit application by a Jamaica resident. It's case number 2W0265-2. Submitted to the District 2 Environmental Commission. I will also add an approval of the appointment of Laura Dodgy to the Library Board of Trustees. She's been by board already for other board members. So why don't we'll do Chris, if we can have you speak to the letter proposed for Brian and my signature, and then we'll go. We'll skip the update on the chapter till the end, and we'll go with people's feedback.
Or about approve the minutes.
Yeah, but we'll on regular items. So with that, the next item of business is the approval of the minutes from the July 14th, 2025 regular meeting. I'll make a motion that we so approve. Okay, any comments on those? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great, staying, right? And Warren's present, right? Good point. I suppose you could watch it. So Chris, if you could take us through what was a little bit of a rethink, I think, on the application, but I got a chance to read it, but can you share?
So 2W0265-2 is a continuation of -1, which you may recall property next to Pikes Hall. We wanted to keep the path to the cemetery where it's always been, and basically we lost. But no big deal. The world coming in. In the meantime, though, wetlands were discovered on the property, which rendered about 2/3 of it unbuildable. If you look on the picture I gave you, you see the wetlands, the white area. And then the law requires a 50-foot buffer around all wetlands where you can't build. That's the dotted yellow line. So what's left is what Reynolds and Company had to work with. So they applied for -2, which is for a dependent campsite, with 3 sites, A-frame structures open in the front, and 3 porta potties, no well. Dependent campsites by definition have no septic, no water, no well. And to say the least, the neighbors are upset about this. There are 3 with adjacent or across the street property. Mr. Basha and his Ortiz is one, Mr. Evans, and Mr. Geisling are the other 2 that have applied for standing in any future hearing and have submitted complaints, specific violations of criteria that they think the project has. The hearing, which was supposedly going to give us very short notice to reply, has been postponed at Ren's request. So we have some time to deal with it. The last Monday, the planning commission reviewed this case, and specifically for compliance with criteria 10, of the expanded review criteria in Title 10, Chapter 004, Section 6086, which are the 10 criteria for approving any 250 permit. And criteria 10 specifically requires conformance with any duly adopted local or regional plan, namely in our case, the Jamaica Town Plan was amended and adopted on January 10th, 2022. So we're on solid ground. So we came up with 4 items that we think violate the town plan. First is that Pikes Falls is designated an area of special interest, namely it's a scenic waterfall. Land use chapter, page 10 does so. And it specifically says, now I'm going to quote it in various places, because the language is really important, making this case. And it says, in order to sustain Jamaica's rural and scenic characters, these landscapes must be preserved. And so our finding is that porta potties are a potential biohazard to Pikes Falls. Any leakage or spillage could run downhill and create a biohazard. And the particular concern will be contaminated stone that melts and runs over frozen ground. Just go right down the middle.
And this is the year-round, but this would be for year-round use?
I'm sorry?
This would be for year-round use, not that it necessarily matters, but, would they be used in the winter, the cabins?
No,
No.
who knows how long it's going to persist.
Hmm.
I
Okay, just, yeah,
any E. coli or anything that gets in there is a problem. Secondly, it interferes with the town owned public swimming area, and land use policy number 6 says, according to begin, lands adjacent to existing public land or planned public facilities shall be used in a manner that will not diminish the value of such investments or interfere with their intended use. So, any spill, whether it actually gets there or not, I think it's going to require us to shut the swimming hole and do some monitoring until we can assure ourselves that there is no contamination in that. And that would definitely interfere with its use. Thirdly, the town plan designates Pikes Falls as a developed area. And the same chapter on page 8 says other developed areas are located on Pikes Falls, which make the so it's specifically named as a developed area. And it is a residential area, which means all its primary buildings are used for single
non-commercial.
I look at that must mean married couples, partnerships, domestic partnerships,
Right.
the permanent residence and or long-term vacation rentals. The town plan says these areas shall be developed for residential, commercial, recreational, or open space uses as long as they relate to the primary residential character of the area. So we think that having a dependent campsite, both facilities, which can be used by transients, there is no relationship to the residential area section of the neighborhood. And furthermore, every other property in that neighborhood is subject to, and in your letter, this is long reference, but section 1-301 are all the rules for what you have to, when you have to have a septic system. And rule 4 says whenever you build anything, you've got to have a septic.
After
Every other property has to meet that requirement. -1, when it was -1, that property had to meet that requirement. So it's also totally out of keeping with the area, with the residential area. Finally, the fourth one is in residential, commercial areas, the town plan encourages, which unfortunately is not legal language, and requires, which is cluster developments to have common water and septic systems. Land use chapter 12, the land use chapter page 12 says, buildings are encouraged to have shared septic systems and or wells, and new developments must provide for landscaping, screening, and should be designed to connect to existing sidewalks and share driveways, parking, and water and or septic systems. Weak words like encourage are still acceptable if they expand upon and modify something else that is. So that's not wrong, but fortunately, you can also say must and should. So, I guess in summary, we think that putting permanent porta potties uphill from Pikes Wall's swimming area is a really, really bad idea. And we also think we ought to stick up for the residents in the area. But the last paragraph in the letter is sort of a backhanded message to Mr. Ray. I mean, this is stupid. What the common sense thing to do is leave the path where it is. You know, it's going to trigger a Rule 34, the nature of the impact review, but so what? It'll give them enough of a building lot that he can build something suitable and nobody will be upset about it. So that's what we're proposed to say.
Right, as far as you know, why didn't he stick with the 3-bedroom and just move where it was gonna be, like leave the current path?
I forgot to say so.
Oh, please.
I should point out. But you know, see the blue driveway on there? That wasn't there at H1.
Right.
It went through the wetlands.
Right,
Oh,
But you still gotta have a path to the cemetery.
but he could always have used the original path that's there as his driveway. There's nothing that prevents him from using the right of way as his driveway. It's shared, it's a shared right of way.
Are you referring to what we were using?
The current access to the cemetery. Is it because it's in the neighborhood?
We are forbidden to use it according to -1 because some previous Act 250 case, which I forget the name, but
Forget this.
established a 50-foot buffer, so there.
That's what I mean. Now, I see the 50-foot buffer zone,
So,
okay?
in order to keep it there, we would have had to have a stone Hills Club review or Rule 34B or
Right.
these rules, which would require probably us hiring a consultant, and it just wasn't worth the expense. But if Ren's paying.
Right, I mean, if it could work for him as well, I mean, we could piggyback on whatever his consulting work was.
The shoe would be on his foot, he would have to,
But that would solve it, then he would have enough room for the 3-bedroom home,
you know,
right? With septic.
there's your.
Because the septic wasn't in the wetlands area, as I recall.
No,
The
the
septic-
septic is
Right,
where one of those red blocks
oh,
is.
right, okay,
So he could have the septic there, he could put the well in that strip where the blue driveway is now,
right,
and a house in the other corner would be, have something to the floor.
right. I wonder if his thought was that the 3 little cabins with porta potties was lighter impact, like a less of an impact, you know? Okay, all right.
No, I think he's grasping his straws, I mean, he stands to lose a lot of money if you can't do anything. on
Right,
the
oh, I'm
property.
sure. And so Brian has agreed, this is approved by the full board and Brian's comfortable signing?
Yes,
Oh,
that was in point paper form for our meeting, but I'm saying the same thing.
okay,
Yeah, this is the.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve my signing of this letter along with Brian Bureau.
Second.
Right. Discussion. Now, this is a bit of a change from earlier internal discussion, but obviously very well thought through. And I know that the at least one abutter was concerned and two other close by neighbors, not technically abutters as that's defined in Act 250, which would allow the jurisdiction to reject. I guess that's why they're applying to be viewed that way.
Is this where the path is? It's sort of the driveway right by the kitchen.
My fault, that's right here.
Yeah, but I can't tell.
And you can see this, this is like the dirt road that you can see the road, like cars start parking right here.
Okay.
Okay, so the next time you go out, if you don't normally look for this path there, you might miss it, but if you look, it's obvious. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make I can talk.
So, I have sympathy for the application. I have not independent to bring it to my attention, thought of the risk of porta potties. But I'm willing to defer to the planning commission in terms of identifying it as a consistent plan. It's certainly on its face, it does seem consistent with the plan, so I don't think this is a stretch. Tyler will have an opportunity to have his consultant, come with a different opinion, or maybe he'll rethink, seeing this letter, he might rethink maybe other opportunities, going back to the original design. I wouldn't want to rule out as a board, joining with him to amend the original Act 250 permit for this, I guess, area that required the 50-foot buffer. I mean, the road is being used now to access the cemetery, and if you simply added the use of the driveway for one house, I can't imagine,
The attached one was, we were concerned that keeping a small swimming pool through it, but
right.
they found that putting the septic system in there, put enough dirt between the septic system and the.
There are others that are closer today, so, right.
So the other issue would be a visual buffer, and, if they put 35 feet of trees in, that would do it. So,
Right.
Okay.
I don't think there'd be an issue with that.
Right. Any other questions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor of my co-signing the letter, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, I'll get another.
This is a draft. If you email this to me, non-draft, I'll sign and scan it and send it back. Okay? Unless you want me to just take off, we could just put table for draft. It's up to you.
I will leave it with you.
Yeah, either way, whatever's easier.
Well, both you and Brian have to sign the same piece of paper.
It's the same, I would sign this one. Oh, it's this draft. Yeah, all right, yeah. It says draft on both sides. I thought if this one didn't have draft on it, I would just sign it and give it to you. All right.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Good to see you, Chris.
Yeah. Let's do all of it.
All right. Oh, Chris.
He's got an notebook.
Okay. Five people helping with that, but. Okay. Alright. Sorry, I don't know my head, they don't.
They're gonna eat.
Okay, so I guess I mentioned earlier, we'll skip item number 3 and we'll go directly to item number 4 and I'll hand it over to Greg.
Okay, I'll reintroduce our group here. I guess Gary and Megan have been leading the charge along with Sean from the team here, putting together our next requested revision and scoping of some additional information. So turn it over to you. I don't know who's going to take the lead.
I will jump in and take the lead. I'm going to share my screen. So I just sent a request over.
Yeah. Okay.
And In the meantime, I'm here with Gary LaRoche, the V-Trans project manager, as well as Sean James, the Hoyle Tanner project manager. I'm Megan Ohms, the senior structural engineer with Hoyle Tanner.
There we go. It's up there.
And tonight,
I'm looking for you.
I think we're good to go.
Got it? Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Looking for.
Yeah, I think we're good. So tonight we're talking about the weathering steel update. Last time we met, there were several really good questions about why weathering steel can or cannot be used in certain locations, and really had some good questions that we wanted to come back and really go through the answers with you and make sure that everybody understood how we got where we got and what the recommendations are. So we're going to discuss the feasibility of weathering steel. We're going to discuss the feasibility of raising the grade. That was one of the questions that had come up. And also, we're going to circle back to the metallizing maintenance cost. We have some additional information there that we'll share. So I'm going to start off with what some of the requirements are and then go through how we get where we get. So V-Trans has a structural design manual. The structural design manual references this FHWA technical advisory. In addition to that, V-Trans has made a stance that they prohibit the use of weathering steel where the difference in elevation between the low chord and the ordinary high water is less than 10 feet. And so that's really going to be key moving forward. This technical advisory is what I have on my screen here. You don't need to read all the fine points. We'll go through the important portions of this, but I just wanted to share that it's a fairly detailed summarization of guidelines for where weathering steel should or should not be used. So some of those requirements in that FHWA guideline include environment. And you can see here the environment, everything checked out. It's not in a marine coastal environment. It doesn't have frequent high rainfall, high humidity, or persistent fog that would cause condensing conditions. It's not in an industrial area where there's concentrated chemical fumes that may drift onto the structure. So the environment, there were no issues with weathering steel. But that's when we got into the location guidelines. So the location, again, it requires that it doesn't have grade separations like tunnel-like conditions, which we don't have here. And it requires that there's no low-level water crossings. So A and B are from the FHWA guideline. The first one, it's not applicable. That's for sheltered stagnant water, which is not the case here. The second point B is it should be more than 8 feet over moving water. I said not controlling because I put C in here, which is V-Trans requirement of 10 feet or more over ordinary high water. And so that's really what we're going to investigate moving forward because it's the controlling condition. And we drew in here in blue roughly where the ordinary high water level is. I'm going to get into in the next couple slides what ordinary high water is and how you determine it. But I wanted to give you a visual of kind of what it looks like in the channel, just for visual purposes. So the water elevation that we're using is called ordinary high water. It's also called bank full stage. There's different terminology depending on what reference you're using. But if you look at the V-Trans Hydraulics manual, it refers to the 43% annual exceedance probability storm, which is a 2.33-year storm. So that's like when you hear people talk about the 100-year storm, the 50-year storm, the 43% storm is the 2.33-year storm. So it happens every 2.5 years roughly. So it's a very common storm. And that relates to bank full stage. And again, if you go back to this is roughly, this blue line is roughly where the bank full stage is, which again is at elevation roughly 660, which will tie into this 43% storm that we're using. So the water elevation is 660.4 based on the hydraulic analysis of this 43% storm. So it ties into what we're seeing on the plans and the hydraulics evaluation, the actual analysis, both come out really close to 660 elevation. So they're in agreement there. And then we have to look at what the low chord elevation is. So the low chord elevation was calculated to be 665.9 based on rough preliminary calculations. It's about a 6.5 foot, 6'4" preliminary superstructure depth, which is what's drawn here in this reddish color. So you can see a girder bridge, a steel girder bridge is going to have a much deeper superstructure than the bridge that's out there, right? So when we do the calculations, this is where we come up with a 5.5 foot distance between the water elevation and the bottom of the steel girder. So looking back, if we go back to the location guidelines where VTrans requires 10 feet or more over this ordinary high water elevation, this is not getting met. We're at 5.5 feet. So the next question that was posed was, okay, if we're close, can we raise the grade to meet this requirement? And so we looked at this. What's going to be impacted if we have to raise the grade 4.5 feet to meet this 10-foot requirement? And there's a lot going on this plan, but some of the things to really note is, there's driveways on both sides. There's the school driveway on the west. There's private residence driveways. There's tying into Depot Street and tying into the State Park Road. There's a lot of points that we'd need to tie into. So if we raised the grade, a couple things would happen. The project limits would get extended out significantly in order to make those tie-ins. The transition would be much steeper in several locations. One area that we're concerned about is coming right off the bridge. It's already a fairly steep transition the way that it's designed currently, and raising the grade 4.5 feet. Would we even be able to meet the grade requirements there? And the answer is very unlikely without doing a significant amount of extra work. So then if you start looking at other impacts that there might be, the green areas are the wetlands. So there's several wetlands throughout the project site. And when you raise the grade, you have to tie it, you have to tie it in off, to the left and the right of the roadway, essentially. And so that becomes more impacts to wetlands. The orangish red line here is archaeological areas. So everything away from the bridge from that line is potentially archaeological impacts that there would be. I had mentioned the driveways that we would have to tie into, and then filling a floodplain and comes with filling a floodplain is you're increasing headwater elevations, which could potentially lead to damaging personal property downstream of where we're causing that change. So there's a lot of impacts that would be caused from raising the grade, and several of those impacts are either very difficult to permit or potentially not permittable because it's such a optional situation of raising the grade in order to allow weathering steel. So in a lot of cases, that's just not a feasible solution. So then the other question that was brought up was, if not girder, then what about a weathering steel truss? And what it comes down to is VTrans simply will not permit a weathering steel for a vehicular truss. And this is just due to the salt corrosion issues and the overall poor performance history. There's one known weathering steel vehicular truss in Vermont. It's the Vermont 100 over the Lamoille River, which is shown here. And what you can see is it was built in 2009. So it is 16 years old, which is, not very far into its design life. And the superstructure is already rated a 6 or satisfactory. And you can see this picture here that the steel is just not performing in the way that it should be performing at 16 years old. You would not expect to see this type of corrosion. And in this snippet, the important part here is where it says superstructure should be cleaned and have a protection layer installed, such as grease coating or even painting along the lower portions to help prevent future corrosion or further corrosion. So already in 16 years, this weathering steel structure is being recommended to have maintenance provided. And again, this is for the same structure. It's recommended cleaning and painting, already in the 16 years, there's maintenance costs associated with it because this was not, did not follow those guidelines that we're showing you, the 10 foot above, and it's got the salt, specifically the truss. The concern is the salt corrosion from the vehicles and from obviously the salt being applied. So in summary, the weathering steel would not be permitted in this location for 2 reasons, either based on the shell clearance to water or as a truss, it just would not be permitted. So the recommendation is metallizing or painting girders is recommended. One of the things I wanted to touch on is that the metallizing originally, we had mentioned that the maintenance cost was unknown and that could be, there could be some certain costs associated with that. After further discussions, the thought is that the maintenance cost associated with metallizing is fairly minimal and relatively no maintenance cost associated with that. and compared to the painting that has the $250 to $300,000 maintenance cost. So when we're looking at these options, metallizing really has a similar maintenance cost as weathering steel does. So those are the two recommended alternatives based on the fact that weathering steel is just not an acceptable option in this location. We'll open it up for questions.
So metallizing or painting is recommended if we went with a girder above, right? If we had some kind of metal work. Not below the bridge, but.
I think that would be below the bridge, right? That would be on the girders below the bridge, or would that be metal inside?
Sort of
Yeah.
below.
Yeah,
So if we go with girders below the bridge, the recommendation is metallizing or painting.
Metallizing.
Correct.
Okay. But there's one option is no metal girders, right? It's all cement, right?
no,
Oh,
there would be metal girders.
oh, there's always metal girders that are exposed.
Yeah,
Okay.
What does our Route 30 bridge have? This?
no, the Route 30 has weatherized steel, the one up right just north of town. Is that correct, Gary? I mean, Gary designed that bridge. So I think that is weatherized steel under the one on Route 30.
That's correct, yep.
Weathering.
Yeah.
Up higher.
It's up, and
Because it's up
and it's
high.
because it's up higher, I'm guessing.
And could you remind me at least, under that bottom painting, $100,000 construction cost plus $250 to $300,000 maintenance cost, over what period of time would that maintenance cost be?
75 years.
Thanks.
And how much of the 200,000 would be covered? Would that be included in what's covered?
I believe so, right? The metallization is covered in the construction cost, right? And 100%?
That's correct, yep.
Why wouldn't we think about that?
We would.
Andy, did I hear that you
Yes.
agree metallizing is the best option?
Yes.
And we're pretty much, I think, at the point of ruling out because of the expense and because of the long-term maintenance of any other kind of metal truss system. We were considering the weatherized steel, but all the other ones, I think the long-term maintenance costs are far exceed anything that, yeah. Just wanted to kind of bring that back out again.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have anybody else. John, did you have anything? I know John's on here.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Craig. Well, I guess I was just surprised at the height issue because the this bridge replacement is far higher above water, whether it's the typical flow rate or the ordinary high water level than the Route 30 bridge. And I don't know whether you want me to share my picture of what the Route 30 bridge looks like, or if you've got it and want to show, but it doesn't seem like the Route 30 bridge was built to meet this criteria.
Well, I think, Gary, you can speak to that. And if I recall, what you had said to me is that some of these criteria have evolved over the years as more of the understanding of how the weatherized steel works.
Correct. Guidelines over the years, of course, evolve as, we observe more deterioration issues and concerns with other structures, throughout the state.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, adopt these evolving or new standards of design to, follow through on projects to, essentially, maintain or assure the longevity of, future structures that are constructed. Not saying that there's any issue with, the Vermont 30 bridge, but it was, constructed, about a decade ago at this point. Time flies.
And that was prior to these updated regulations or requirements that VTrans has put in?
Yes.
Okay.
And just as an aside, I don't know for sure what the elevation was when it was installed, but I know we did a lot of debris removal in above and below that, but there was no debris removed from under the bridge. So I'm only gonna guess there's been some debris, some stone, whatever, built up underneath that bridge though, since it was installed. So the elevation may not even be as high as it was when it was originally installed. I'm only kind of guessing that.
Sure, I understand that. I just say that, at high water mark, when there's floods, that water laps the bottom of the steel. It is still not 5 feet away, as many of us have witnessed. And but if the state is essentially saying it's impossible, what can I do? I just think that it's a missed opportunity for having a structure that aesthetically is, would add to the, I guess I'll say picturesqueness of that part of the river, and the fact that it's an entry to the state park, and that with respect to the truss bridge, or any bridge with respect to weathering steel, but particularly the truss bridge, because it would have the proper clearance above the water. That bridge never is subject to salt. And I recognize, yes, salt can be carried by cars from Route 30 down there, but it's actually a good bit of travel. And generally, I think that the concern of salt contaminating that bridge is exaggerated. It just doesn't. It's just not an issue for that bridge. The town doesn't use any salt. The state doesn't plow or salt that road, period. And so there just certainly isn't going to be any salt put on the bridge. And, my measurements came up with 12 feet clearance to the high water mark as opposed to your 10 feet, but whatever. It's a couple of feet. As I said, I think it's a missed opportunity to have a really nice bridge installed there, something that befits the natural beauty of the area. And I presume that a trussed metallized bridge is not something that is that V-Trans would consider, or would they?
Well, weathering steel is out of the question altogether for no matter which structure they choose. If the town elected to go with, a truss bridge, then it would need to be metallized. Or galvanized.
So a metallized truss bridge is possible, you're saying?
It is, it's the expense.
Yes.
Right? You go back to those options, it's extraordinarily expensive and it would be too great a burden on the town.
And may I add?
Yeah, please.
I serve on the Wyndham Regional Committee as a transportation commissioner. And we had a presentation from V-Trans not too long ago. And just put it in some perspective, the expenses of everything going up. But say 2019 compared to now, V-Trans was able to build maybe this is a little exaggerated, 25 to 30 bridges a year. Where now we're looking at maybe 2 to 5 in current times. So me as a board member and representing the town, I really pushed for the aesthetics early on. We all probably would like that, but I just think the bridge should be built as soon as it can be. And I think that cost has something to do with that, how V-Trans would be able to go ahead with that. We keep seeing it getting maybe pushed back a little, not too much, but my opinion or outlook on this has really changed in the time we've been trying to deal with this.
Any other discussion? Can we put up on the screen the option that because we're gonna vote tonight, correct? Or?
Yes, I believe
Yeah,
we can,
yeah.
for sure. It was on.
Yeah, I think it'll make it a little bit easier, is that, I don't know who steps to do that, there was the one slide that had the 3 options on it.
It was from a previous 2 weeks
Yeah, from the
ago, right?
previous,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let me pull that up. Hold on.
thank you. Please.
Just as treasurer, I feel we should go with the least expensive option to the tax. That's all I want to say.
And the maintenance cost is gonna be one of the huge
Yeah.
costs to us. I mean, the construction cost.
So that's 100% covered,
Right.
depending on the choice.
Right.
Maintenance cost is. Well, we're gonna have to start it.
Is this the slide you were looking for?
Yes, please, yes, and then the image that's associated with them would be great. If you have those.
What are you looking for? I'm sorry.
So first we're seeing alternative 5, which is the girder bridge.
Right.
It's 4.1 million for 75-year lifespan. Versus alternative 6, which is the truss bridge, and alternative 7, which is the through truss.
Correct.
Both of those at least $2 million, $2 to $3 million, $3.5 million more over a 75-year period. And Sarah gave us it was like 51 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's not annualized, but just to give us a sense, as it is, we're going to have to find $50,000 a year to put into a sinking fund to support the expense. So if you could just show us an image, I think based on our discussion, I think what I'd like the board to see again one more time is the girder right there. If you can see alternative 5.
So this is generally a girder bridge that has some of the aesthetic options added to it.
Right. And just to remind the board what we discussed last time, which is that's the basic, we're talking about a basic image, construction, but here she's showing again some of the other aesthetic options that we can take a little bit more time settling on in terms of forms for the concrete to give it a softer, kind of more aesthetically interesting and potentially pleasing appearance with colorization, maybe not royal blue, but okay, who am I to judge? And texture with concrete forms.
And also the coloring and the styling of the rail.
And
Of the railing, correct.
Right.
Correct. So you can choose if you want to go with a painted girder, you can choose what color you want the girder painted. You can choose the color of the railing. The abutments can have different patterns on them and can be stained different colors. So those were generally the options that we discussed last time.
Right.
Do you have a picture of it, just how it would come, just basic,
Right.
without the?
Well, no,
I don't on this other than the painted steel girder, this is a very general steel girder bridge.
oh, okay.
Although the highways would not be that shape, but it's
Same picture.
that's the construction. It's a metal span and concrete on either side and then along.
So this will come with it? Well, sometime with that.
And our rate of,
That's
I don't think we
stop.
have a rate of
Where
like
that's
that.
Probably stop, and then change that.
Oh,
And so we would be making a decision now as to whether to go with alternatives 5, 6, or 7. And then over the next 6 months or so, as I recall, we would have an opportunity to add in layering decisions with respect to the forms,
and rails.
the colorization of the girder of the sides and of the
okay.
things. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve alternative 5, the girder bridge option, as has been presented to us. Second. Okay.
Could I ask you a question before there's a vote?
Well, this is now the opportunity for discussion. This is formal discussion of the resolution, so please.
I know, but I just didn't know whether this was for the metallized bridge. Is it just a general design question, or is there a question about also the material that's being used?
Whether we are going with a girder bridge, a truss bridge, or the through truck. And I have made a motion that we approve the girder bridge option, which on this slide is the $4.1 million cost over 75 years.
I think what John's asking is whether there's a decision at this point of the type of metal used for the girder. And I don't think we need to decide that right now.
No.
But I think my feeling here
It's
that
gonna
we're
be
getting the
metallized.
consensus that we're getting the metallized version.
Right.
Does that make sense, Gary or Megan? That we don't need to that level of detail right now?
I think that's fine. Figure while we're here, I shared a couple pictures with Megan. I don't know if you could bring them up because we were talking about, the salt exposure on even a pedestrian bridge, that's facing, premature deterioration that was only constructed in 1999. That bridge is pretty Swiss cheese like, using that weathering steel and even an off road condition or off highway condition, I guess you could say, with those moist characteristics or not meeting elevations and so forth, it still has a significant impact. I just figured we'd share just a quick image of that bridge.
Yep. So right here, if you guys can see my screen, you can see there's significant deterioration of this lower chord.
Oh,
And so there's no salt contact at all here, and it appears very high above the waterway.
and yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Right.
So the
Holes in
Right.
Yeah. So do you, I mean, not that it matters so much, but I mean, that almost, what would be causing that? If we're watching
Well,
it and this is still happening, we got to be concerned about any girder that's using that metal.
Right.
Anyway, we don't need to know that. Okay.
But yeah, just an example of, a structure that doesn't see salt, but the moisture is, a major concern because the steel can't dry out and, get that patina or that armoring layer on it. Vegetation, under the bridge can also cause, moisture issues as well. Like you can see under this bridge, there's a lot of vegetation under the bridge that could hold that moisture and not allow it to dry out from being shaded.
So that's maybe what happened to that one? That contributed to that, the picture we're looking at?
Looks like it's still.
Possibly.
This is a town-owned bridge. I think I said it was up in Williston.
It is correct.
And it was constructed in 1999.
Not 75 years yet.
No, so I just figure I'd share, for context and, to kind of make full circle with, John's comments regarding, the salt exposure.
It's very helpful. So just getting back to so you were asking whether we had to make the decision with respect to weatherized, I'm sorry, with metal versus painted girders.
We can memorialize all the, the material and cosmetic characteristics at, preliminary plans, roughly in 6 months from now. That's fine. And then one thing I want to mention, we haven't used this material yet on any bridges I know of, and maybe Sean James has some other experience with it, but there's some like colored sealers that sometimes can be used on metallizing that will like give it like a shade of a different color. On the at least the fascia girders, that might bring a little bit more of a cosmetically pleasing appearance to. We can look into that a little bit more. I personally, I haven't used that material in the past, but I've, something to look into, if that's something that you're interested in us doing.
I mean, if it's out there and it's not specifically excluded as a possibility, and we have 6 months, it would be, nice to explore everything that's available, for sure.
Yeah.
John, did you have anything else as we're discussing proposed resolution?
I guess I just wanted to confirm that those maintenance costs that you were talking about were related to a painted steel girder bridge as opposed to a metallized steel girder bridge.
Yes.
Those were, I do believe, let me take a look real quick. From my recollection, those were painted options.
I wanted to come lower.
They were.
Good.
There's no maintenance for them.
Yeah, you did say that there was virtually no maintenance. So the maintenance costs would apply to other things, but not necessarily just for the dirt.
Right,
Right. So there is maintenance cost on a bridge that has metallized girders. There's still going to be maintenance costs because there's still going to be a concrete deck that needs rehab. There's still going to be like potentially repaving and joints that might need repair, things of that sort. But there's not going to be anything specific to the metallizing. So that's the difference. Is the painted girders will need to be repainted every, so many years, where the metallizing will not need significant effort.
Right.
So there is still maintenance cost associated with a metallized girder bridge. It's just not associated with the actual girders themselves.
Perfect.
No more wooden deck.
No, no more replacing. Exactly. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of approving alternative 5 bridge, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And to the guys on in the computer box, thank you so much. Obviously a lot of work went into this, including research beyond the original scope, and being a representative of the town, I can tell you everybody is extremely grateful. This is a critical change, and it's going to cost the town even less than it was 2 years ago when we first started talking, because construction costs are 100% covered, and you've been very patient. And we look forward to working with you as we make the design decisions over the next 6 months. And fingers crossed we get to construction.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'll follow up with a form, just memorializing the decision, and be looking to get, the chair's signature or, a designated person,
Sarah.
just so we can, memorialize our project defined, and then we can get right into design.
All right. So if you could send it to Greg, myself, and Sarah, that would be great.
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Man.
All right, I'll go back up to quick update on the town clerk. The candidate who we have both interviewed tonight has taken a different position. So we are relooking at candidates. Mary is obviously still in the running, but we are gonna be pursuing some additional. So I'll come back to you in a couple weeks.
So there's no more candidates?
No more candidates right now. No.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're gonna relaunch.
Right? Okay.
So, the next item. Yeah. There, yeah, it's gonna be a set still. How many minutes? Yeah, that would have been nice.
After that for once.
We may have to go that option that this to before we'll hire. So the next item. Is that Greg has received some bids on the town hall tree work.
Did you receive it?
I did not,
Okay.
I reached out and I did not.
Okay, so we have received 3, so.
I mean, it's not an RFP, so if something does come in this week, I think we should discuss it, and I'll push it out, but let's.
Well, I think we could act on either. Anyway,
Right.
I mean, so we we sought quotes to advise us on what to be done with the two trees that are kind of encroaching on the front of the old town hall. Karen, let us know that they're approximately 40 years old. I think they're older than that, and maybe they've been there as long as I can remember. But anyways, so we reached out to three local providers to provide or to advise what we could do and what their costs would be. So the first one that I'll do them in order of receipt, so that way we keep them all in line. So the first one was from Four Winds Tree Care. They're located here in Jamaica. They suggested that we completely remove the trees, chip and remove all brush, remove the larger logs, and grind the stumps. So their total cost was $5,800. Second one we received was from Wise Oak. They're out of Londonderry. They're currently owned by Davy. They're a Davy company now, so you see those go around the place now. So yeah, so he's still Matt Mosier still work for them. So still basically be all the same. They recommended that we prune the trees and take away all the debris of pruning the trees and trimming them back so they're off the building but retaining the tree. Their cost estimate was $1,800. And also to point out that each one of these has mentioned that, I mean, they all are insured. They all have mentioned that they're aware that the power lines go through those trees. So there's definitely an awareness of that. The third quote was from Michael Longo, who's also a Jamaica resident. He also suggested that the trimming of both trees and removing of the debris, his estimate was $575.
Wow.
My thought is that we can always remove the trees in a future time if somebody disagrees, they look ugly, they die, whatever. One of them is not in such great health as of now anyways, which is typical, I think, for maples. They kind of come and go and may die off a little bit. I am going to make the motion that we accept the bid of Michael Longo, $575. And I'll also add that he does things the old-fashioned way, so to speak, which is great. He is also aware that there's the power lines in there, so he can work around those. So.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just that I've had Mr. Longo years ago at my house. It's pretty impressive what he did.
Yeah.
And we also just had Four Winds come in and assess all our trees, and they told us that our ash tree was the biggest one they've seen in southern Vermont or something like that. And they pruned it, and we had two maples that were pruned, but he said that one was in trouble and would probably have to come down at some point. So they seem very knowledgeable. Passing all that, really like them all. I'm sure they're all well qualified, just got some different approaches.
Right.
I don't think that it would go over so good that the tree got removed right now.
No.
I think you're being, violent agreement here.
Yeah.
Okay. Seems a little nice.
All right.
Like Greg said, maybe have to wait.
Might have to, but
Right.
Right. Not today.
can't put it back.
And for-
That's right.
That's right. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Terrific. Okay, so my two additions, well, we've already covered the JPC Select Board letter with respect to the Private Rents Act 250 application. The next one is that the current Board of Trustees, they are down to, did do a search and have voted to approve submitting for our approval Laura Dodgy as a member of the Library Board of Trustees. So I will make a motion to approve their request to add Laura. Second, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, with that, we'll go to the regular items of business. I will make a motion to approve the time sheets for the staff in the town office, the listers, the highway crew, and the transportation attendant. Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next, I will make a motion to approve the pay order that has been submitted. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right. So public concerns, I think we have a member of the public.
Yeah,
Do you want to share anything?
yeah, I have a request and question. This is for my own, for whole town. We used to have a garbage pickup and we used to hand these out, so for your recycling. I think it'd be great if people could buy these from you guys, newspapers, whatever they want,
Oh, to have in your own home.
in your own home. So you
Okay.
just-
Make it easier.
That can be stuff all our paper. I need more of
Mount Pleasant,
them. Mount Pleasant,
New York.
Europe.
Yeah.
I have
Well, welcome to,
Yeah.
Vermont.
So, anyway, I just think that it makes it easier. And then, I have a request that we do something different in terms of garbage. I know we started doing the bags, when we were here before they started doing that. I find the bags are, to me, unnecessary. I prefer like a sticker approach.
Yeah, we're going to, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's good.
That's our plan when we run down on the back. We have way too many bags at this point, but when we're getting
Yeah,
close.
don't talk about when we're not doing it.
So, yeah, so when
How long
we.
is that gonna be bulk garbage?
18 months, 18 months?
Yeah, it's gonna take a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about stickers or tokens or something, yeah, so we're on the same.
Not 18 months out.
Yeah, about 6 months ago, we went through that whole process.
Okay.
It had a long discussion, lots of voting
And I've noticed the bags I'm getting lately are like, they deteriorate. I don't go through a lot of garbage, so mine can be in my trash for 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. And I know it's like in that 10 days, the bag is just.
Yeah, they start
So
breaking down composting.
this is.
Yeah, so I know,
I have to be in my comment about that, because I as well only take my garbage about every 2 weeks. But I follow the rules, the law about what can go into the transfer station. I compost everything that has to be composted. I only place in that bag what qualifies as household waste. We can hand to you, by the way, if you don't have next to your garbage area,
Yeah.
the do's and don'ts, what gets recycled, what is quote household waste, and what has to be composted. But if you follow those guidelines, I tell you, I leave them outside in the rain, full while they wait, and they do not deteriorate. You cannot put sharp on the same as with the old plastic bags. You don't put broken glass, you don't put
I use my
recyclable.
inside bags. Go in, no.
Right, I
Well,
don't,
there's some ways, so.
I
I'm just saying, I noticed
right.
that the bag, I literally was kind of like, I didn't put this back, and I noticed it was just coming apart at the
Right,
seam.
if you follow the
Right.
restrictions, I honestly, it's my husband and I sell them, yes. And
It's a common thing, I mean, we realize that probably, maybe they're not the best thing, but we
Right.
tried to find a solution, and we'll look at different solutions next time, so.
I encourage you, to- if you follow the guidelines, the regulations, they're not really guidelines, the regulations, you follow them religiously, the bags. Do you,
I have the same, yeah, it's probably 3 weeks for us, for just to do this, and they're. So if we can find somebody who wants to buy them all, then it won't take 8 to buy them.
They're expensive.
right, are we only 30 cases? Really?
We were 32 at the beginning of the month, I sold a couple since then, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're getting down on the.
We're getting down, so maybe less than 18 months,
Maybe
maybe
use them
closer to a
faster.
year.
And more.
Use more. You do your part.
Go to some more.
And I will say, we did not have an easy time finding people to participate in this discussion. And we put out agendas, we publish agendas every week of the select board. This was on the select board agenda no fewer than a dozen times. And not more than that, because it was over months. So,
Just going, it's okay
If I may comment on that time, I don't think any of us out here realize how crappy those yellow back those new guys were gonna be.
I then gave them away for free for weeks beforehand, before we actually committed to the site. And I thought, it's 100% positive reaction.
Right.
So I'm not, in terms of the process, I'm gonna push back on criticism, but we'll see. Please pay attention. We'll publicize it again.
Did you put them on your Facebook page? Like something like that?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, agenda, so I want to tell you something, the agenda for every meeting is pushed out on Facebook page.
But I'm saying something that's.
And
that's a
it's
little more-
short and the,
But it's a little more, everybody deals with garbage, right?
right,
Not everybody goes over a bridge or over a certain part of the town, so everything that's in is, but there's some things people like might wanna care about. I'm just saying, it's a separate item, hey folks, we're trying to make a decision and have that as, that's all I'm saying, it's like some things that you think might get have more universal interest, I guess.
we thought that as well, so I'm gonna ask you if you'll do your, part as a local citizen, to join, and if you tell your neighbors, friends, everyone, hey, you feel strongly about this, you're unhappy, come and participate, weigh in on the options that are being presented by us.
But not about the
You
matter.
get a countdown on the number of cases left.
But everybody needs that faster, and we'll be rid of.
That's what it's on the countdown.
Yeah.
So exciting.
I know you would otherwise. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I look forward to you coming back when it's time,
Yeah,
or sooner, if you haven't.
I'm hoping sooner.
Okay,
Come to every meeting.
so with that,
Right.
and then Paul, please.
Yes.
Well,
I didn't get a chance, I had to put my hand up, but get a little quick.
oh, sorry.
On the bridge thing. As someone who's kind of been involved in this thing for the last, seems like the rest of my life, I would like to say thank you as a citizen for all the work you guys put into this horrendous problem of towing over the bridge.
Big decision tonight.
That has been a long battle for a long time. And I think you guys have made the right decision. And I appreciate the effort, energy, sweat, blood, and tears in that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We beat the folks with insurance, they deserve.
I'm sure they were in their seats each time we asked them. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been so patient.
They've been great, yeah. Yeah.
They're great.
They,
And to everyone, including John, who really
John put a lot of time into this. Thank you.
did a lot of research, put a real fine point on the decision. And the results, while it may not be what John had specifically hoped for, it certainly, from my perspective, gave us a much deeper understanding why we did that we did.
Yeah.
So for that, I'm extremely grateful. So thank you.
I know more about bridges than I ever thought.
Right. And it's so it's great. It's really great that we have that deeper understanding. It allows us to talk more knowledgeably with other members of the citizenry about the decision and what it's made. Any other, that was it, in public? No one else online? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second, all those in favor? Aye. Great.
Thanks very much.
thank you.